And finally, we'll look at how digital jobs creation may be accelerated across Africa. Okay. For quite a while now, I've been involved in creating jobs in different roles that I've held. This started way back in 2001, when I had my first business, which is the NIT, a Computer Education Center here in Abuja. Thereafter, I founded Niche IT, in which I provided consulting for a number of organizations in Abuja, as well as state governments. I also initiated the first smart city initiatives in Nigeria at NIDA, in which we focused a lot on grassroots participation and the ability to internal talents for creating solutions for cities. At Kion.ng, I also have had the opportunity to give jobs to a number of people who are still there, and also artisans. In my current role at NIDA, I work with a lot of stakeholders, not just those who are in NIDA, but in other parts of, in other areas of the economy. And one of the things I enjoy doing is coming up with policies and strategies that lead to new jobs, new businesses, and empower people and communities. So over the years, I've had varied experience when it comes to the issues of hiring qualified personnel. I've also had the direct experience of, of the frustration that comes with not finding people for the right jobs. But there's no frustration that measures with when you have so many people looking up to you for jobs and you cannot give, and you find out that they are willing to work, but they just can't match what you're looking for. And that's what I see, almost on a daily basis. People who feel that they should get jobs, but that they can't get those jobs because there's a mismatch. So right now in Nigeria, and I believe there's a similar situation in other parts of Africa. There's structural unemployment in which some jobs are there, some jobs could be created, new jobs could be created, but they're just not for the kind of labor that the system is producing. And this situation is getting worse as a result of the changes, as Uko mentioned at the beginning, the changes in the brought about by digital innovation. So this is going to continue unless very urgent steps are taken. I think that is why we are having this conversation. So let us all agree that the urgency that stands between us or in front of us is not peculiar to a community, it's not peculiar to a country. It is brought by a global movement. But we have a better chance to change the trajectory that I just explained. But how do we do that? It's going to offer a combination of strategies, efforts from different stakeholders. And I'd like to pause here and ask, I don't know how many countries are represented here, but if you're not from within Nigeria, or in other African country, could you just raise your hand and explain briefly what you think about job situation in your country. Is there anyone?
I'm gonna unmute everyone
Mm-hmm.
so that some people can share as they wish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want me to first?
Mm-hmm. We have very young participants in the class here, so that is very cool.
So I don't know who all are not in Nigeria. I am in the U.S.
Okay.
You come
The
this
US.
way.
Is there anybody else? Is there anybody who is not in Nigeria from here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I am actually in the U.S. as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that could you repeat your question again?
Yeah, my question, I'm just simply asking you to share your perspective on job situation. Since you're in the US, maybe you want to share something about Africa, any African country, just all the continents as you want.
Okay. All right. So I'll share a little bit about the country that I'm in currently, about the job perspective. So prior to currently, by the way, I work for the systems, and I also do have a cybersecurity firm called Cyber Alliance. And in my entire career in the United States, I've always had access to be able to work from anywhere in the world, anywhere. So I could be right there in Ewah State, which I have been, and I'm working on projects with customers. You know, I might have to have MTN and Airtel SIM cards, but I could work, and that has happened several times. I've been in Lagos and worked from Nigeria for clients all over the world. The reason that was so is because I was working for Cisco, which is a technology company that trusted me to deliver on my job no matter where I was. They not only trusted me to deliver on my work wherever I was, but they also enabled me. They enabled me in the sense that they gave me the technology so that I can securely access my internal data and my external data and be able to meet my customers' needs wherever I was. And so when the pandemic happened, right here in Raleigh, we actually have a Cisco office about 5 miles from here. And when the pandemic actually happened, you know, and they said everyone should work from home, it was no problem for me because I could always work from home. And so most industries in America are able to work from home unless you are like unless you're like a physical worker, like a manufacturer worker, because you do have to make sure on site. So in terms of the job nature, most American companies do trust their employees to be able to work from home, and they enable that. And if they didn't, up until COVID-19, they now are able to do that. Now, on the flip side of things, now that I'm also Nigerian, I'm actually from Ewah State, I know that that would have been a challenge. You know, I know a lot of people that were not able to work. I know some governmental workers that were not able to access their data and do jobs, perform their data. So I'm very, very well aware of that. And so right now in America, I can also tell you that we're experiencing a lot of job losses, mostly due to the fact that we're not able to work anywhere. If you're not able to work just about anywhere and do your job and deliver, that was the challenge. And that's why we have a lot of job losses today here in the U.S.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the chance to share that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'll come back to that later on in this conversation. Okay, so in the first wave of innovation, when the internet economy was introduced to us, we saw a lot of changes, right? For Africa, we saw a different kind of of experience. Just as there was a wave of new businesses, new business models that were coming in as a result of the expansion of the internet, we saw a lot of migration, cross-border migration from all over the world, from China to the US, from Middle East to Africa, and so on. Now, for continents like Africa, China, India, over 1 billion people moved out of the poverty bracket. And this was as a result of the strategic advantage they have, if you put it that way, lower wages, lower cost of production. As you saw, lots of manufacturing work crossing over to China, India. There was also talent export from Africa, to the US and Europe. Because people could do work from anywhere, because businesses, particularly those in the advanced economies, were looking for ways to cut down on payroll wages. Countries in the Southern Hemisphere, developing countries in particular, were quite attractive. And so, among other things, that was some of the outlook of the first wave of innovation and how it impacted on continents, particularly Africa. All right, but how is there someone speaking? How has that impacted on economies? To a large extent, and we are still seeing it, and most of what we are seeing and experiencing in Nigeria in particular, right, is the fallout of the last wave of innovation, where we are seeing the introduction of low-cost innovations into communities, the growth of local innovation ecosystems that are seeking to support or extend innovations across cities, across industries. From where I work in government, there's also been strategic policy shift towards encouraging that, sort of sustaining the growth of low-cost innovations. At NIDA, we have a whole institution called the Office for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. When I started out in 2001, we had nothing like that in Nigeria. We didn't have this kind of institutional support where you could get mentorship, you can get financial support, you can get linkages to other stakeholders locally or abroad. In the last 10 years, you've seen the emergence of institutions like Andela, CC Hub, and a whole lot of others, all playing in that space. That's an example of the relics of the last wave of innovation and how they have come to stay with us. But where are we going to go from there? Right? Because as you all would see in the next few slides, the dynamics of innovation has changed. The internet economy as we knew it from 5 years ago has changed drastically as a result of the introduction of new platforms and tools. Right. So that has also created a new competitive advantage for those who had been playing in that space, but also portends new sets of challenges for economies like those in Africa. Just to circle back to the point I made earlier on about the benefits that Africa gained from there, and even China. So China became a favorite destination for outsourcing US manufacturing. We're all moving to China, but organizations like FedCom in China that employed up to 1,000 people in their production lines are replacing them with 1,000 robots. So the attraction of cheap labor is wearing down, and that is a danger for a lot of continents that are hoping to survive on that, including Africa. So if we benefited from talent export, but those talents are being replaced by robots, what are we going to do? In the build up to this meeting, I was active on the WhatsApp group. We talked a lot. I enjoyed most of the contributions, if not all. There was a repeated mention of data. Yes, he who owns data owns the future. But again, that is also where I'll tilt my conversation to, where I think that Africa has a window out of this. Instead of exporting talent, there is a new resource that we can use. So the technologies of that platform, as they are variously referred to, big data, cloud, mobility, and so on, are actually going to be very beneficial to Africa. Not necessarily in the way that the advanced countries view it or use it, right? They have the advantage of domain expertise because of the depth of their use of technologies. All right. But for us, it's going to be a different ballgame. I'm going to explain a lot more in the next slide, but let me just focus a little more on what we have, what do I mean by domain expertise and so on. Right. One thing I didn't mention earlier on, in the last wave of innovation, there was more centralization of industries. It was almost like everything was coming out of that 30 by 15 square mile strip in Northern California called Silicon Valley. Okay, so the Ubers or the Amazon and all of them, the real investors were all located there and controlling every business that was run all over the world. Is that going to be the same going forward? Not quite. But you can also understand that even if there's going to be some spread across regions, Africa, Europe, Asia, and so on, but the monopoly of Silicon Valley is not going to be taken away overnight, because they'll continue to build on the expertise that they've had, the R&D from institutions that have been built over the years. And so you're going to be, we are seeing early sprout from those capabilities. And again, the strength of existing industries. I mean, I'm referring specifically to traditional industries like a government will continue to determine who takes the early lead in this. A good example is in the area of cybersecurity, for instance. And my friend and I could have a word or two to say about this. All right. So why is Israel, Russia, in particular, so active in cybersecurity? There is a strong linkage between their governments, the foreign policy, and their superiority, if I may use that word, in those areas. The same way, if you come to the US, life sciences coming out of labs in Boston, for instance, at MIT, as well as investments that China is making heavily in genomic science, is placing these countries well ahead of others. Japan, South Korea, Germany, because of their advanced manufacturing experience in electronics and advanced manufacturing, are taking the lead in robotics. So, but that's also, does that mean that Africa is going to be left out? Not quite. Africa is not going to be left out, but Africa is going to, or should be building on those platforms that I mentioned earlier on: big data, cloud, what's the other? Mobility, principally. And I'm going to focus a lot on those three, and explain why they are going to be the savior for Africa. Of course, we enjoy the benefits of the latecomer in technology. Just as we all know in Nigeria, for instance, we skipped landlines and move all the way straight up to mobile. We also don't have a lot of encumbrance when it comes to legacy infrastructures and so on. So cloud is very appealing to African countries. It just kind of almost like a no-brainer for us, to adopt cloud, but carefully. Big data, or data as a whole, is also going to be very beneficial to us. Earlier on, someone said in the group, in WhatsApp group chat, that we don't have a culture and so on. I agree, but what makes big data what it is the discovery of new data sources that never existed before, but which can significantly improve not just decision making for a whole lot of players, both private and public sector, but also provide the tools for us to create the kind of businesses that serve Africa and even the world. I give an example of something I've been working on for about 3 years now. So again, back on the issue of Nigeria's accelerated growth in mobile technologies. So Nigeria jumped up to the top 10 in the world in mobile connections. Right now, that immediately places Nigeria at the strategic advantage in terms of the availability of that data source and how that can be transformed into a national resource. Now, mobile phone data is just one type of big data. Now we are also big on social media. So social media data is there. Scanner data from transactions is also another important source of big data that can be harnessed in Nigeria. And of course, satellite and geospatial data, which can also be used. Now, this is a huge source of employment for Nigerians, and not just Nigeria. I was in a conference on big data in Rwanda last year, and we talked about how the African continent as a whole can benefit from big data to and use it to address multiple sorts of challenges across different sectors. Now, 1 second, let me move this. Just stopping my view. Okay. I wish I can get this out of my way. Okay. Yep. better. All right. So how can this be applied in a way that would lead to the jobs that we are discussing? So both public and private sector organizations must retool. I use this word that we have to, 10 years ago, 10 or more years ago, one of the popular refrain we had in consulting was, oh, you need to develop a strategy for your digital strategy for your business. But all that is changed now. Today we talk about strategy for your digital business. Whether you're in public sector or private sector, digital business is no longer the tail, it's now the head. So it wasn't surprising. It was yesterday, even in on the WhatsApp group, someone brought the story of stamp duty, the new stamp duty regulation in Nigeria. Stamp duties to be paid on transactions, even on WhatsApp, and so on. I couldn't. That was so welcome for the purpose of this conversation, for what I'm discussing right now, about how digital has become the head and not the tail. And the more we see that across both the public and private sector, the more we are going to open up avenues for the integration of these technologies, and significantly lead to new business models and jobs. And when I talk about new business models, I just give an example of FIRS, that's the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic broke out, one of the things we did in my office, we had a tech for COVID-19 committee set up, right, to look at how the innovation ecosystem could be sustained over that period. But some of us were also concerned earlier on how we could mitigate against the impact. I mean, a lot of government offices were being shut down. And indeed, a lot are still not fully operational. So one of the things I did was to propose a measure that would allow more government services to be provided by third-party organizations. So I came up with an onshore outsourcing strategy where private organizations would be providing government services that is digital services in a way that, whether there is a pandemic like this in future or not, government organizations are going to continue running on a 24/7 basis. Now, so far, in the last 3 weeks, we've been doing mapping of digital services that are currently being offered by government agencies, and those to determine the gaps, and also create gap closure strategies by way of identifying possible digital services that can emerge. So if you look at organizations like even the correctional services, that is the prisons, or any essential service organization you have in Nigeria today that is shut down, right, that cannot go back to work because of the restrictions, and also because they have relied heavily on the old model. So changing that, but going forward, how do you get local organizations, whether they are BPOs or call centers or organizations creating value on services, that interface with government organizations. So what I'm saying essentially is that as traditional industries, including government, attempt to remodel, to adapt new digital business models. We are going to see new processes emerge from there. We're going to see new businesses emerge from there. We're also going to see new jobs requirements. But again, that is just on the side of government. In Nigeria today, we are seeing a few sectors that are taking the lead when it comes to onshore outsourcing, like in banking, telecom, and so on. We need to see a lot more on that. But what I'm saying essentially is that a lot of these transformations, a lot of this remodeling of business practices by businesses and governments would be relying on these platforms I've mentioned at the beginning: big data, AI, cloud in particular. So right now, Nigeria has, I think last year also, my agency published the Nigeria Cloud Computing Policy, which is to support migration to cloud, particularly by not just government, but all entities. We also have a strong data localization policy that requires that all sovereign data has to be stored in Nigeria. Right. So these are, from the policy perspective, steps that have already been taken and are continue to be published or brought out to support organizations, whether in public or private sector, that are ready to utilize new platforms like this to create jobs. So it's a good thing for the army of unemployed people where we are. But later on, I'm going to be talking more about how they can re-strategize as well, because the remodeling or changes to strategy is not going to come from the position of the employer alone. Those who are seeking jobs must do something, and quite urgently too, for us to achieve a fit. If that doesn't happen, we'll continue to have the structural unemployment that I talked about at the beginning. Is my computer giving up on me? One second, please.
Maybe you can, hey Bernard, you probably can take presentation mode for a second, and then go ahead and put it back in presentation mode. That would unfreeze it.
Okay, that will unfreeze it. Okay, one sec.
You can just do escape, get out of the presentation mode, and then get back into it, or you can just click through here.
Okay, there we go. So I've talked a lot about how we may approach traditional industries. Let me also talk about possible new digital markets that we're likely to see across Africa, but which are also built on these platforms that I talked about: AI, big data, cloud, and so on. Right. I'm not talking a lot about robotics for obvious reasons. I'm focusing on this S3 because I believe that things could happen sooner than later. Now, if you look at areas like, or sectors like, agriculture in Nigeria. I talk a lot about Nigeria because I happen to know more about Nigeria. Um, agriculture is one sector that is going to, or stands to benefit a lot from the combination of those platforms. But that is not going to happen if we don't take the steps we discussed in the previous slide. Similarly, in healthcare, education, transportation, energy, and so on. I think that a combination of just this industries alone can give us up to 2 million new jobs. Oh yes, but it's not going to happen if we continue the current, or sustain the current approach to the level. It's not going to happen. So when the president, for instance, last year announced that he wanted to get 100 million Nigerians out of poverty over the next 10 years, he received a lot of flack from the public. And I believe much of this cynicism was based on the knowledge of how things work at this time or presently. But there are lots of opportunities across these sectors and a lot more that I've not put up here. All right. So let's discuss one of them, for instance. Let's discuss, the health sector. The health sector is one of the most multifaceted, sectors or industries. And when it comes to health tech, it is very complex, requiring, a diversity of skill sets and job roles. So the Nigerian health sector alone can offer lots of new jobs for the unemployed, but only those who are ready. For about 3 years, I've been working on EdTech. The EdTech ecosystem is also very broad. So for a lot of us who are old enough, who cannot remember, or who may remember with nostalgia, books written by Longman and what was the other one again? Longman and I don't remember. Yeah, if I remember, I'll let you know.
Macmillan.
So it's on the rise. Macmillan, correct. Thank you. So, but they're no longer there, right? But as you know, each time there's a destructive move like this, new businesses come up. So in the EdTech ecosystem, we can have players as much as those who are in graphic designs, those who are in animation, those who are in research, those who are in printing, and so on. Now, all of this is not happening because we have not taken a concerted effort to develop that sector. So the development of traditional sectors in a way that integrates new technologies is critical to opening up space for new jobs. Let's talk about big data in transportation, for instance. All right. So even the mobile big data we are working on right now in Nigeria can be used to support road development, because the easiest way to know the viability of a new road project is the traffic. And when people, mostly people, everybody who travels on a road carries a cell phone, it is easy to develop the migration patterns on existing or future routes. You can also use that combined with sensors, right? To collect data on road traffic that can be used for law enforcement and a whole host of others. We can use that to determine in-country migrations, determine peak and low periods of migration and how that impacts on traffic management, for instance, how that impacts on the distribution of security services. But you need to develop the skill sets. We need to develop the laws. We need to develop new policies. We are doing that. At the moment, 3 weeks ago, I completed work on Nigeria's mobile phone data policy. We still have work to do on scanner data, scanner big data, on social media data. I believe that as we go on and we put all of this into practice, we'll be creating opportunities for players, because in the case of mobile data, we're going to see a situation where the telcos will now have the capacity to reuse the data, or new data analytics companies utilizing such data to provide the kind of value addition service that I mentioned in transportation, in healthcare, in this like in the control of pandemics like COVID, Ebola, and so on. All right. So then R&D is also another essential area where we could see new jobs. I'm talking specifically about our universities and other specialized research centers, or private research organizations utilizing this data to create new insights that are useful to private businesses and governments. So research on using data generated from the multiple data sources I've mentioned, laying that with AI can be used to extend the performance of key sectors like agriculture, in the area of precision agriculture that I talked listed up there, or in managing health data or providing health informatics. So quite recently, the Nigerian Health Insurance Scheme, in my office, and we looked at the project that they are rolling out. I was significantly, I was impressed with the idea that when it comes to health insurance, they have extended it to the non-formal sector. Right. Now, even though I've been talking a lot about government, I think the real meat for growth in job markets in Nigeria has to be in the informal sector. And let me explain what I mean by this. So, even though we are touted as the biggest economy in Africa, we still have a larger proportion of economy in the informal sector. And that is huge. The more we can shrink that size and reduce the number of people who are paid under the table in Nigeria, the black market, as I like to put it, the more we're going to create new jobs. And the fastest way to get to that is by deploying new technologies, especially those built on these platforms. So think about the number of people who petty businesses who are unbanked or untaxed, because I know Nigeria is trying to to increase its tax base, but a whole lot of Nigerians are untaxed. Consider the number of people who pay their drivers out of their pocket, pay workers like masons and so on, undocumented and all that. That's a whole lot. In the US, that cannot happen. And part of why they are big on taxation and and social services and all that, because they can track if all these transactions, no matter how small. That is an area, or one of the areas where we're not only improving on service delivery, but we're also creating new jobs. The reason I'm taking time to talk about this is that I know a lot of the younger people in the audience, and again, I can understand when you talk about jobs, you're talking about most people here are thinking about one government organization or one big bank and all that. That is not always the case, particularly if you want to grow fast in the IT-enabled services sector. Sometimes the smaller the organization, the better. And lastly, on this slide, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about data innovation and analytics. I've already mentioned some of the new data sources that could be harnessed in Nigeria for the benefits of multiple industries. That on its own is a huge market. It's huge at all levels of the economy, federal, state, or local government. And I think in subsequent slides, when I talk about how to accelerate this, let me not jump the gun, where I talked about how to accelerate jobs. I did mention a few ideas of how we could move closer to a data economy. I think Nigeria can easily become the data capital of Africa, because data is, it depends on numbers, and we've got the numbers. And if we become data, if we manage to get close to becoming the data capital of Africa, then the new job projections I mentioned earlier on, could be surpassed.
Bernard.
Yes, please.
I have a question. If you go back to that.
Yep.
The last slide.
This one?
Yes. Is there any particular reason why you put those fintech jobs in that order?
This one's right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I put fintech here because fintech is already in Nigeria. Right? It's one of the early industries that is taking shape in Nigeria.
No, I guess I was just asking, is there any reason why you put those jobs under, or those opportunities under there in that order?
No, not necessarily.
Put it there?
No, not necessarily. But however, fintech up on its own, because it's already happening, whereas the likes of precision agriculture, cybersecurity, cybersecurity it's happening as far as support, but as an industry, no, it can get better as we see transformations in the other industries, as we see more movement towards digital services, then we're going to see a lot of traction in a lot more traction in cybersecurity.
Thank you.
Yep. So, in all of this, the question in the minds of most of us would be, what needs to happen? There has to be a massive rejig in our skill development or capacity development. It has to. So we need to see massive reform and innovation in the education system. One of the things I like to say is, I mean, I was talking to my daughters early this morning, and I said, look, every kid today, to survive in the industries of the future, you need to learn at least 2 languages, a technical language and linguistic language, irrespective of where you're going to end up. Whether you're going to end up as a teacher, a nurse, doctor, whatever, in the next 5-10 years, you need to at least have a background in programming. So while I'm calling for a reform in education system in Nigeria, for instance, education is in the recurrent list. So I don't really understand what that means. But I think that states and local governments can take the lead, especially as innovation at the grassroots level is the most fundamental. And I'll talk about that later on. That we'll continue to see new opportunities for learning, like the MOOC websites. I've talked to a lot of young people about using them to develop their skill sets. It's very important. So you can get the same quality of training that the counterparts in the advanced countries have, from the likes of Udemy and Coursera and so on. We also need to have strategic skill development even at the levels of industries. And when I talk about industries, I'm really specifically referring to the need for industries to understand the urgency for multi-skilled workforce. The fact that you are a lawyer doesn't mean that you just have to continue on that line in the labor market, the digital market that is before us. You can't survive on just one skill. So if, as we expect, that in the next wave of innovation, industries like life sciences are going to be the next $1 trillion industry. It means that those in the medical sciences have to be adequately grounded in programming to understand, for instance, genomic sequencing, because excuse me, the next industry, the next set of computer codes are not going to be based on 1 and 0 as we had in the internet era, but on the genomic codes in our bodies. So that means that those who are in the medical field, or those who are aspiring to be to go to the medical field, need to understand that, and that is why IBM's Watson has turned out to be the best medical personnel in the world today. It's just AI. So I listed a few languages that are out there. There are lots more. It's not exhaustive, but excuse me, please. We need. Don't worry, it's not COVID. I'm alone here, so don't get scared.
Okay, now.
You know, it's a few weeks ago for a cough like this. Even this one, that's how the screen would cover. All right. And the rest. Now, this skill sets are critical to creating the subject matter expertise in the platforms we've been talking about. You know, cybersecurity, big data, AI, robotics, IoT platforms, and so on. How are we moving towards that direction? I see a lot of graduates out of computer science um, departments, universities still lacking all of this. It's a big problem. It is a very big problem. If you wanted to employ 10 graduates today, if you're lucky, you find one or two. It's a big problem. So for the younger folks, my advice is always been develop yourself. Don't wait for what they teach you in school. Don't wait for your parents. Don't wait for nobody. Develop yourself. But for parents, please know that it's more than just giving your kid education in a particular discipline, whether it's law or engineering and so on. It's much more than that. So on. It's much more than that. If you have younger kids, particularly those in primary school or early childhood, introduce them now. This is the best time.
Ms. Ewah,
Yes, please.
another question for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Let me know if you prefer for me to wait till the end and I can ask the question then. Is it okay if I ask?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you brought up a lot of things here, and to be quite honest with you, that I totally agree with you 100%. What I do have a challenge though is when I look at the curriculum in the public school systems of Nigerian universities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we have any initiatives? I mean, I meet a lot of Nigerian youth that are finishing their higher education at the universities. They go out and serve, and they tell me that they have computer science degrees. Meanwhile, they have zero skills around computer science. They may have never written any code. You know, they may know some theoretical aspects. They don't have skills that they can actually hit the road running in a digital economy. Now, my question to you is this: as someone who's working at NIDA, are there any initiatives that are allowing you guys to begin working on curriculum development? Like, is it something that you guys are working on to change the curriculum development that that these universities should have in place so that is a youth takes 4 years, 5 years to finish an education or a bachelor's degree, that they have the skills to be able to meet some of these requirements or skills that you mentioned that are necessities.
Thank you. Just say your name again, please.
My name is Niles, like the River Nile with an S.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is what I have to say. I have been interested in EdTech for as long as I remember, since I joined NIDA. And one of the strategies that is being pursued right now is to not only work with the likes of Nigerian Education Research Development Council, responsible for curriculum at the primary and post-primary, but also engage with NIDA. So sorry, NUC and the rest. So last year, I participated in the policy development process. I reviewed by education policy, or rather, we developed a policy on technology in education, and some of those things were indicated there. But let me be quite honest. It takes a while to achieve those changes, mostly because most of the folks you're talking to do not really get it. But let me also share one of my biggest frustrations, all right, is that as much as those graduates do not have the skills, there's another layer of problem.
Right, I agree with you.
And I think that in Africa, I don't know about other African countries, but in Nigeria, this is the only country I see somebody graduates at about 24, 25, 26, and he has never worked. The person has never held a job. All right. So in addition to tweaking the curriculum, one of the measures that we have proposed in the new outsourcing strategy that I think we presented to the public. Was it yesterday? Today's Friday. On Wednesday we had a virtual public presentation of that policy. And what we're trying to do is that we need to be more flexible. We need to be able to create opportunities. One, for young people in secondary school to learn these skills, secondary school and universities. Two, for them to be able to use these skills while in school. So if you can hear me, I hope you can all hear me. So the business process outsourcing businesses which would anchor government businesses or the likes of call centers and so on. We expect that current students in high school and universities should be the target when it comes to those who work there. So that way we'll be able to have people who, as they graduate from high school and university, already have job experience. And job experience, not just any kind of experience, but in related fields. So these are just two areas that I think that in reference to your question, have been taken right now by NIDA. I'll also talk about what I'm doing on my own as a private citizen, because part of the reason why I founded Citizens was directly to respond to these challenges and the fact that it is very action from government is usually very slow. But we'll talk about that on the slide on Citizens. Is there any other question?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
This question time, can we ask question or at the end of the program?
You can ask questions while I'm trying to move to the right, but I think my computer has a mind of its own, so.
I'm seeing everything clearly. Everything is seamless
Okay.
From here.
No.
You still have some slides. Let me wait. Let me wait till the end.
Okay. So let's. We almost just have maybe one or two slides left. So how might we move? closer to where we want to be. Look, for all my period of working in this field, whether in consulting or working as a private a professional, I've come to the conclusion that cities that have or countries that have achieved meaningful progress when it comes to digital transformation and so on, that focused at the city level. And the reasons are obvious. Just like in all other parts of the world, there's more people, more citizens moving to cities. Cities have become the center. And indeed, they are the centers of innovation in places like the US. So in the US, you can talk about California, for instance. You can talk about of Boston, right? You can talk about other global cities in the world. What's happening is that there is an ecosystem that is enabled by the combination of government in the city administrators, local universities, and so on. And that is why it is not possible for anyone to say, "Oh, I want to recruit Silicon Valley in Abuja." And so yeah, you can build the infrastructure, but that culture is not there. It's not going to happen. So cities, including those in Africa, we must begin to find out what we are good at. So if you're in New York or Calabar or Enugu, Yola, the first thing is, what is my city or what is my state good at? That's going to determine the dimension of innovation that you should pursue. But if we just wait and say, okay, that's a national this or federal this and so on, it's not going to work. I believe that every city, every human habitat has its unique characteristics that can be transformed to economic opportunities and growth. So when we discover what we are good at, then we'll be able to develop policies to back up and place the community on a path of innovation, enabling the emergence of innovation ecosystem that taps into the strength of its local population, including the schools, including the unique creativity of its people. So those of you who are in the innovation ecosystem, the hubs and so on, one of the things you need to be looking at now is to try to identify the uniqueness of the environment in which you find yourself. That's where we now begin to find the jobs. But some of the businesses and the products we're enjoying worldwide today, they came out of the mentality I'm talking about. So earlier on, I talked about some of the little things I do at my day job. But one of the things that gives me profound excitement is what I do at Citizens. I'm not ashamed to say that frustration drove me to this because it's so damn difficult to achieve a lot in government. I don't know how people do it for 30 years, but it's crazy. You know. So I'll just talk about a few programs we have here. Now, the first one is the City Tech Solutions Challenge. So here we work with innovation ecosystems. We try to support the development of innovation ecosystems in cities and have them to take part in developing solutions for their cities. So this year we have a partnership with our organization in South Korea, Ewah. So we are redeeming. So it's going to be a City Tech Solution Challenge / City Premier, and in a couple of months we'll be rolling out. The target is 6 cities across Nigeria, and what we're looking for is people who come together as form project teams with unique ideas about how to solve problems in their cities. And those cities, the areas of focus are going to cut across some of the SDG goals or some of the SDGs. But more importantly, as I expected, focusing around education, healthcare, governance reform, transportation, environment, waste management, and so on. So that's what we're doing. We'll be doing that, and we do that year in, year out. The Leaders in Government Technology Fellows Program, it's also a direct response to the absence of strategic skills in government, particularly the local government, which incidentally is the most crucial when you want to talk about grassroots innovation. So you don't have it. And part of the problem is the rigid bureaucracy we practice in Nigeria. When I travel around the world, I see city governments having job roles like chief data officer, chief innovation officer, chief cybersecurity officer, at the level of local government or council administration, as we have them in other parts of the world. All of these skill sets are necessary to articulate strategic roadmaps for the use of technology to improve the quality of services at the city level, area where it's most connected with citizens, but you don't have all of that in Nigeria. And of course, it will be difficult for people who have those skills to even work in local government. So this program looks at how to build this skill sets in a way that there is active. Hello. Can you mute your mic if you're not, please? Yeah. So we're bringing in stakeholders, including universities, local companies, so on, to work together. So the target for this program is young graduates who are just fresh out of college. So we try to go into a 7 to 8 months program where they come up with the kind of skills that we think that they can lead digital transformation in local government. They can act as strategic officers. They can lead in efforts to harness citizens' data at local government level to improve the provision of services, and so on. So that's what we're doing there. The monthly makeup is more like a show which we organize every month. We've not done that since COVID because for obvious reasons, but so we're going to go probably using this medium for the most part. It has advantage so people can join us from all over the world as well. But in recent past, I have had a lecture at Base University here in Abuja, where I talked about how local governments can identify and utilize data generated by citizens, to improve service offering. And then the last item we have there is the City Innovation Expo, which is a forum where we bring city leaders to talk about how to develop innovation strategies or digital strategies at city level and so on. By the way, citizens, right now we are technical partners to AMAC, so we're working with AMAC to support them on the development of digital transformation strategies and so on. Yeah. So if you want to join, Citizens is a free membership organization. What we do, we welcome companies, welcome governments, we welcome hubs, welcome individuals. For companies, when we have projects like that are being promoted under the Citypreneurs City SC program, so they have the chance to be part of the project teams, so they can act as mentors, and also when they have products and services that can be utilized by those project teams. Excuse me. So that offers an inroads into those projects. So we think that over the next 5 years, we can, directly produce new businesses across Nigeria, built around this model of harnessing local talents, providing them the skills to become techpreneurs, and supporting them, to move from ideation to the market. I think that is where I draw a curtain for today. I want to thank you very much, and I would like to welcome questions at this point.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Mr. Leonard Ewah.
Yeah, you can call me Ben, please.
Okay. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm joining this session from Uyo.
Okay.
Actually, I am very happy the way you concluded the conversation, the lecturing aspect of this conversation by pointing us to the platform GTC. I believe that the major problem we are having in this part of the world, and which is very rare in the industrial or developed world, is that when we are privileged to know something, we hide it, we hold it. We don't want the other person to know. Now, you are talking about somebody cannot survive in the upcoming economy with just one skill. If you're a lawyer, you need to also develop yourself in other skills so that you'll be also competitive. But people hide information so much. They hold information like food. And the developed countries, they give out this free information to the extent that people start looking for it. It is at that point that they begin to put some charges. You keep on looking for who will teach you. You know, keep on looking for avenue. You come in, they will begin to ask you whether you have been trained, whether you have been, you have done this, you have not done this. Say, oh, it's a learner. They won't want to teach you. So I want to appreciate all that you have said. You really went in deep, and I believe also that if we can be much more open in sharing these informations, you know, even some people may not be willing to go for training or pay for training when they do not realize their needs for those things. It is in the point of interactions, you know, that people will develop interest and they will not want to pay. So if we can find in Nigeria here organizations or bodies that we can join, so that mixing in that community of people who are interested and who are focused, one can also get himself educated. That is one.
Mhm.
Then the second one, which is a question now, is uh, you are one of the staff in federal government organization that regulates digitalization and so on. This is the first time I'm even hearing that. So how are you people? That is the first time I'm hearing that there is such a body in existence. So how are you people making it possible for Nigerians to know about this, you know, kind of existence and government, you know, uh, efforts to, you know, because after you have done all of these things, if the people you are doing it for don't even know that there is something like this, it amounts to wastage of efforts. So I'm asking, how are you people visible to the people? How do people know about your existence? It is myself. Immediately, I have seen this thing now. I have developed interest, and I want to look out for you people to know, because I'm sure that a lot of government programs or policies or contribution to this digitalization of the world will emanate from you people. And you people are the one that will be at the driver's seat to tell us where we are going. So please, that is my own question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. So the National Information Technology Development Agency has been in existence since 2001. As you correctly said, it's been in the forefront of promoting technology development and its use in Nigeria. There's a regional office in Port Harcourt, which is close to you. However, as I had mentioned to Uko, I think we've started doing that. A few days ago, I suggested to him that I would like to see us form a network of original innovation ecosystem players.
Your food.
Yeah, which he has started working on. So I think that will help you, because there's also another problem. There's sometimes um, a lot of support coming from federal agencies in Abuja that people, particularly in some regions in Nigeria, may not be aware. Maybe scholarship, maybe capacity development opportunities, so on. You may not be aware. So two things are suggested to Uko. One is the need for a well-organized innovation ecosystem at the state or regional level, so that if there's any opportunity like that, it could be easily. Another thing is that there's always trends when there's a common voice, right? And emanating from any part of the country, right? Because one, to be able to even work with your local leaders to articulate common positions that are beneficial to you, right? Because, like I said, a lot more can be achieved at the local or state level. And we see a lot of projects that are, done out by state governments that do not work at the end of the day. Also possibly because we don't have active collaboration with the innovation ecosystem. So it's both ways. I hope that we'll be able to do that going forward. That will be quite helpful to everybody.
Hey, Ben.
Thank you for the first comments. Let me also shock you that much of what I do, I paint myself. I'm an accountant by first training. So if this is going to be useful for most people, you should understand that you can actually do whatever you set out to do. All right.
Ben?
Can I add to
Yes,
that?
please.
I was gonna kind of piggyback on what you said because she had two questions that was placed there. You answer the second phase of the question. So I'm gonna try to kind of enlighten some kind of shed light around some of the things that she asked in the first question. So my name is Laito and I live in Janesville. Her first question is around when I was growing up. I remember there was a program that was called Better Life for Royal Women, where a congregation of women will come together and teach people how to do stuff. Unfortunately, today, our society does not give us the advantage to do such. However, there are so many things that we can take advantage of so that we don't have to always sit down and wait for somebody to come and teach us. And that's where you're talking about the fact of the global economy, where now the world is flat. We have the technology, the media. So instead of buying that data to watch a movie, buy a data, go on YouTube and find out how to do something on YouTube. I'll tell you, I have an 11-year-old daughter who almost every single thing, I will share some of her artwork, some of her music, and some of her things. But every one of those things, I did not take 1 minute to teach her. She goes on YouTube and she self-taught those things. Her school does not have the avenue where they teach her that type of artistic work that she shares. So if we as people, regardless of where we are or where we live, if we can take that minute, especially with what happened with this pandemic of causing us to stay at home, especially with the non-essential workers where they were forced to be at home, there were so many people that now turn to YouTube to self-taught themselves in a lot of ways. So if we can get on this media to be able to listen to you, put in all this energy to help us, we should also take that minute to go on YouTube, to Google, or I mean to YouTube some of the things that we desire to learn, because there are some people out there who have taken the minute to go on there to teach people how to do stuff. I'll tell you, my sister lives in Plateau in Jos, and she went on YouTube during this time to learn how to do some of the baking, like meat pie, to do some of the other stuff that, and she's an accountant by trade, but she went on there to learn all this other stuff during this time. So I feel that we, not just women, but also men, can go on there, use that platform of YouTube that has been given to us to educate ourselves. So I thought that I wanted to add something like that in there.
I just want to add to that, if that's okay.
That was wonderful. I love that.
I want to add something to it as also. So you mentioned there that, hey, instead of wasting your data to, do social media and all these things, you can actually, buy data and go on YouTube and learn. So it's a great idea. I think when we look at our culture in Nigeria, we so much rely on others. And I think that's one of the cultural things that we need to kind of shift in mindset, that, you need to invest in your own self, right? I mean, all the way through
Absolutely.
elementary school, post-secondary school, and university. Parents sponsor their children, and until they get married and all that. I think that creates a problem of always wanting to receive, 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 receive. Now, one thing I do want to, I think we need to change our mentality and, hey, listen, how can I invest in my own self? How can I invest in my own self? And, Emmanuel, you bring up a good question. How do you have access to citizens that Mr. Ben is presenting here? It's a great question. I think that, he created these citizens because he found the need and he wanted to close that gap by creating them. I think that's something I would like to also challenge everyone in the room. Wherever you are, there are needs. And if you don't see it, that's an opportunity, right? That's an opportunity for you to create it, right? And you might have to Google it. Everyone else Googled it. So why not Google it too and find how are other people solving that exact same problem? How may you be able to leverage the knowledge that's out there and solve that problem as well? So we are all have opportunity to create, because when you create that, it's just not for you. You turn around and you have to employ someone to help you drive that. And now you're not just creating capacity, you also help employ or close that unemployment gap.
Great contributions from you both. Fantastic. That's exactly what I meant when I talked about the democratization of learning. Right. Everybody has a chance to learn or to teach some other person. Yeah.
Hello?
Does someone have another question?
Yes, please.
Yes. Hello?
If you have another question, you can unmute yourself.
Victor, go ahead.
Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Carry on.
Okay, I'm fine. I joined the section late, so I would appreciate if you can forward the video recording of the platform to enable those of us who couldn't access the platform early enough to benefit. I don't know.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you. We'll do that.
Please, we'll appreciate.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Victor. Yes, please.
Hello, yeah.
Mr. Ben.
Hello, Ben. I want to thank you for the opportunity, a wonderful presentation which you've made. I am much interested. My question is around Africa. Have we got outside the? Have we got such forum as where intellect, committed minds can have research that work towards achieving certain goals? I think this is not common around here, and I think, like we're talking about jobs in Africa today, strongly believe that there is much to be done in the area of research and development. And sometimes so many factors are responsible. Research usually is most achieve more when you've got a number of like minds sharing in contributing to the achievement of that goal. We haven't got so much of that around here. That's one thing. I don't know if this forum could take a step forward, or maybe you could go further. We could go further to have a kind of some kind of research group whereby interested minds can work on setting goals. That's one. Number two, I would be also appreciate if you can share some of your presentations, the slides. Thank you.
Thank you. The audio was not consistent throughout the time you were speaking. So I couldn't say I really fully understood your question. The
Do you
first
want me to
one,
share it?
please do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what he was saying was that, and then Victoria, you can correct me if I missed something. What he was talking about is, he said, are there any platform where, you know, people can come and access, people that are interested can come and access and, you know, learn about setting goals and how to drive that to fruition? You know, is there a public forum that people or intellectuals can come and join and participate and drive, you know, setting goals and researching and how to drive that?
Okay. Well, I don't know where you're located, but your location doesn't really matter these days. You can always reach out. You're in Abuja. Okay, I'm in Abuja as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, there are lots of platforms like this. All right. Some of them are going on at the professional levels, like the Nigeria Computer Society. I think we meet every week. So every month, once in a week, there's always one topic or the other to talk about and so on. But what I see a lot in Nigeria, we spend a lot of time talking about what we know and all that, are very less time on what, you know, using our hands to do things, right? So I'd rather be working on a project or initiative that is targeting specific outcome, and where you need to do research, you know, you do it, and so you know that this is, and not just to build knowledge without giving yourself the opportunity to apply it. You know, so as much as we want to acquire knowledge, also be interested to apply it. Look for opportunity where you can start up an idea and then go in search of knowledge, right? It will help you. And then whether you're looking accessing knowledge or using YouTube or whatever, right? It's more gratifying and enriching over time. Okay. And we are blessed. I say that quite often. We are blessed with a lot of problems. Everywhere you go in Nigeria, there's a problem, right? So if we are going to develop a case study, it's so easy, to come up with one. Everywhere you go, there are problems. So take one up and you can think about how you can use technology to address it, and before you know it, you're somewhere different. Thank you.
All right, Ben, just so that you don't miss out the last of his question, he asked also if you wanted to share the PowerPoint from your presentation.
Definitely. I think there was the previous question from Victor. I did say that, yes, that will go on to everybody. I'll share that with Uko, who would say to everybody who is on the platform.
Okay, one more area you didn't talk about concerning the last speaker's question. He was talking about, is there a platform only maybe where you see a problem and maybe you're using digital skills to solve, but is there a platform whereby people can come together or be brought together for voluntary services, whereby, you know, they work and in the process also learn, if it is data gathering or whatever. People who have the desire to do work, but they don't have where to belong, but they want to do it, you know, to have a platform where they can come together basis of voluntary nature. He said that, but he didn't address it.
Okay, well, this is one of them. And we have a lot of exciting projects, we are developing at this time. So feel free to contact us. Okay.
All right. Anyone else has questions you want to ask Mr. Ben? You might have to unmute yourself to ask the question. All right, I'm going to pass the ball to Uko. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben, for such a educational presentation. Very intriguing, to say the least. And I have to say, I'm very, very proud of the progress you've made there. It looks like you've spent a lot of time and effort in driving these initiatives. And actually, I'm very hopeful after hearing what you're sharing about, where Nigeria is going from here on. Mr. Uko, are you there? Do you want to go ahead and wrap us up? Some final words from you? Okay, Mr. Uko, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Are you speaking? Let me ask you to stop your video first. I think you may be having some bandwidth issues. So if you stop your video first, we may be able to hear you. Okay. Oh, it looks like Victor and Kanaba. It looks like you have another question. You have your hand raised. Okay, guys, it looks like Ms. Uko is having some audio issues. If there are no more questions, I will go ahead and wrap up the call by just saying, Mr. Ben, thank you very much to all of the attendees. I hope that this has been very beneficial to you. I hope you learned a thing or two. And I will work with Ms. Uko to ensure that this presentation does go out to Future of Jobs. I hope that you guys were inspired and that you guys have kind of triggered something in your brain, that this discussion has triggered something in your brain that's going to enable you to dig a little bit deeper, to go back and research and see, hey, what can you do to make a change right there where you are, just like Mr. Ben was talking about. Thank you very much, and everyone, you have a good evening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Niles.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Mr. Ben.
Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Ben. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.